over the years, the government has been involved in a number of scandals / done a bunch of sketchy stuff. Today, let's look at some of the worst moments in history that the government has tried to hide or cover up. Starting off this countdown, we have the Great Cat Purge. Now, we're starting off pretty tame for this one, before we get into some really dark and depressing stuff. So during the late 17th century, the Black Plague wiped out half of Europe's population in 4 years. The death toll for this plague is anywhere from 75 to 200 million individuals. Of course, at the time there was no cure for it, and there was no official cause. People started to think that the plague was spread by cats. In fact, the Catholic Church convinced people that the cats were sent by the devil. As a result, a huge cat massacre began. Meanwhile, this actually made the situation worse because the cats were controlling the rat situation, and it was the rats that were the problem. But by the time they figured that out, it was too late, and the cat population in England had greatly declined. Moving on to number 9, we have the Flood. During the 80 Years' War of Independence between Spain and the Netherlands, the Dutch were like, let's use our geography to our advantage. They thought that by opening up their dikes and flooding the land would deter the Spanish. And I mean, it did, but it had some nasty consequences. The floodwater completely destroyed the land. People had to flee from their homes, and cities were eventually lost forever. Also, the towns that they were trying to protect were still captured by the Spanish. The flood only delayed this from happening. Moving on to number 8, we have the atomic bomb. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki took the lives of thousands of individuals. It's said that between 70,000 to 135,000 people died in Hiroshima, and 60,000 to 80,000 died in Nagasaki. The bomb was so powerful that people up to a mile of it were vaporized. All that was left of them were their shadows burnt into stone. Now here's the thing. All American presidents have refused to apologize for this bombing. In fact, many have argued that the bombings were justified and necessary. So it's definitely something that they don't want to talk about since they don't want to be forced into an apology. In our 7th spot, we have Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was the largest, 3rd strongest, and 3rd deadliest hurricane in US history. It also caused the biggest evacuation in US history, with 15 million people evacuating their homes. It is said that almost 2,000 people died as a result of this hurricane. 705 are still reported missing. Now, of course, a government can't control a hurricane. However, many argue that the government's response to the hurricane was insufficient. First off, the government officials did not prepare for the forewarned catastrophe. Second, government officials took inadequate actions days before and after the hurricane hit. Third, they sucked at evacuating people, and fourth, they failed to help after the disaster occurred. Coming in at number 6, we have the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott was an enslaved African American man who tried to sue for freedom for himself, his wife, and their daughters. Their case was the 1857 case of Dred Scott versus Stanford, otherwise known as the Dred Scott decision. Basically, Dred was taken by his owners from Missouri and they brought him to Wisconsin where slavery was illegal. So Scott sued in court for his freedom. Sadly, it was unsuccessful. In the end, the United States Supreme Court ruled that people of African descent, regardless of whether they were enslaved or free, would never be protected by the Constitution and would never be citizens of the United States, and therefore they were not allowed to sue. How incredibly messed up is that? Now, there's more to it than just that, but that's kind of the basis. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the internment camps. During World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared for Japanese Americans to be sent to internment camps, including US citizens. As a result, 120,000 Japanese individuals were placed in internment camps for the war. 62% of them were American born. So even though they were born and raised there, they were still sent to the camps. Now, this happened after the Pearl Harbor attack by the Japanese military. This had the government shook, and they thought that there could be spies among them. So to solve this issue, they decided to place anyone of Japanese descent into these camps. Moving on to number 4, we have the oil spill. In January of 1969, a blowout occurred in the Santa Barbara Channel. As a result, 3 million barrels of crude oil spilled into the channel and onto nearby beaches. At the time, it was considered the largest oil spill in the US. Now it's the 3rd largest one. As a result of this accident, 3,500 seabirds, dolphins, elephant seals, and sea lions died. Thousands of others were left badly injured or sick. It also took a huge toll on the ecosystem. Not only that, but it had a huge effect on the economy. All commercial fishing in the affected areas was suspended, and tourism in those areas dropped as well. Coming in at number 3, we have the Black Panther Party's free breakfast. This was part of a breakfast program for children in 1969. The Black Panther Party made it possible for tens of thousands of hungry kids in cities across the US to be provided with food for free. But the FBI did not like this. They saw that the party was growing in popularity and they were scared. So they decided to raid the breakfast with guns drawn. Police broke into churches that hosted the breakfasts and destroyed the food. Some even urinated on it. That occurred in Chicago. In Harlem, the police started spreading rumors that the food was poisoned. In Virginia, they told parents that the party members were teaching their kids racism. And in San Francisco, they told parents the food was infected with diseases. You get it. As a result, parents were afraid to send their kids to breakfast, and the program fell through. In our 2nd spot, we have the slaughtering of elephants. One man, and one man alone, is responsible for the death of 40,000 elephants. His name is Alan Savory, and believe it or not, he is an ecologist and livestock farmer. See, up until 1969, Alan actually thought that herds of elephants were destroying the African grasslands. So he had thousands of elephants shot and killed to try and protect the grasslands. Then he found out that the elephants were actually essential to prevent desertification, and he realized his terrible mistake. But by then, it was far too late. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Austrian army fail. I think this is the definition of epic fail. So during the Battle of Karansebes in 1788, Austria was at war with Turkey. About 100,000 Austrian troops were set up camp near Karansebes. It was then some of their jobs to go out to see if any Turkey troops were nearby. But while doing so, they came across gypsies selling alcohol. So they decided, hey, why not? And then they bought some. They brought back the alcohol and the troops started drinking, getting a little too carried away. In the end, an argument broke out because the men that got the alcohol didn't want to share it with the others. They started beating up each other. While doing so, someone shouted that the Turks had arrived. Now, they were unprepared, so some just fled completely. Others fired randomly at whoever they saw. In the end, it was revealed that the Turks in fact did not arrive, and they were shooting and killing their own men. Around 10,000 soldiers were dead or wounded, and the Turks didn't even have to try. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. If you want to see part 2, then you gotta let me know in the comments below and smash that like button. And now, speaking of comments, let's move on to our comment shoutout portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video, top 10 terrifying uninhabitable places where people actually live. John's World commented, "Hi, I'm a big fan, love you guys, I hope I could get a shout out." There you go, John's World, there's your shout out. Thanks for being a loyal fan and subscriber. Lance Kiefer commented, "You're awesome, Lindsay. I'm watching you like twice a day. At first it was just because of the content, but now it's your commentary just as much. Love the channel." Thank you, I appreciate that. It's funny, because a lot of people comment being like, "You sucked at first, now I love you and you're my favorite." So, thanks. And Tommy Brooke commented, "I have visited Underground Town in Australia. It's actually pretty cool. I'd love to go there. Who else wants to go there? Let's just take a field trip. We'll all go there. I think it'd be fun. Who's with me? Let me know in the comments below." Okay. Alright guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shoutout. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye!